Welcome back to the War Room. Today we're doing another army review and we're going to be looking at the Seraphon. This is a super cool army. It fits everything that my 8-year-old brain loved. Dinosaurs, big dinosaurs. It's awesome. And these dinosaurs are riding on other dinosaurs. Really cool army, really fun rules. And just a lot of different ways you can play the army as well. If you want to go really heavy into the magic side, there's ways to do that. If you want to go really heavy into combat, there's ways to do that. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please go ahead, give this video a like, subscribe. At the time of recording, we're at 99 subscribers, so please go ahead and be the 100th person. That would help us out so much, and we would love you forever. But let's hop right into this. We're going to hop into the battle traits here. They have these things called asterisms. And so the asterisms, you pick one in the deployment phase. If you completed it by the start of the third battle round, then you can pick another one. The first one, we've got the Great Plan. Pick an asterism ability. That asterism ability can be used for the rest of the battle, but the others cannot unless allowed by the Further the Great Plan ability. So once again, in your deployment phase, you pick either Itzel the Tamer, Quetzal the Preserver, Sotek the Deliverer, or Tepak the Seer. Further the Great Plan, this is the start of the third battle round. You can use this ability if you meet the condition below that corresponds to the asterism you picked in the deployment phase. So if you picked Itzel the Tamer, and in the start of battle round 3, you have 3 or more enemy units that have been destroyed, you've completed that one. Quetzal the Preserver, there are no enemy units wholly within friendly territory. Sotek the Deliverer, the enemy general is in combat or has been destroyed. Or Tepak the Seer, there are any friendly Slan units on the battlefield and no friendly Slan units are in combat or have been destroyed. So if whatever one you picked at the start of the game has been completed, then you can pick a different asterism ability. It can be used in addition to the one you picked in the deployment phase. And these are pretty cool because this is just, most of these are army-wide. They're just Seraphon units. So the Itzel the Tamer, this is companion weapons used by friendly Seraphon units have crit 2 hits. That's super awesome. Quetzal the Preserver, subtract 1 from the Ren characteristic of melee weapons for attacks that target friendly Seraphon units that are wholly within friendly territory. And then Sotek the Deliverer, add 2 to the move characteristic of friendly Seraphon units. And Tepak the Seer, add 1 to casting rolls for friendly Seraphon units. So once again, if you pick one of these at the beginning, and you just get that ability for the rest of the battle. And then in turn 3, if you've completed whatever it was what you needed to complete for it, then you can pick a different one. So you can have 2 of these effects at the same time, which is super awesome. If you want to go with like your cavalry units, getting crit 2 hits on them is awesome because your cavalry units are really strong. If you wanted to be -1 rend on like your Saurus warriors, you do Quetzal the Preserver. +2 to move is awesome because this isn't a typically fast army for the infantry units. Your Kroxigor are not quick. You got faster cavalry, but if you wanted to add extra movement and kind of be able to be faster than your opponent, that's one to do with Sotek the Deliverer. And then Tepak the Seer, if you just wanted to be +1 to cast for the whole battle, is really cool. Is really awesome. Next up, we've got battle formations. We've got the Eternal Star Host. This is once per turn per army in your movement phase. Pick a friendly Seraphon unit wholly within 12 inches of a Seraphon wizard to use this ability. Roll a dice on a 3+, remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So you can just teleport on a 3+, and it's once per turn, so you can kind of be hopping around the whole board using this. The Shadow Strike Star Host, once per turn in your shooting phase. Pick up to 3 friendly Skink Infantry or Skink Cavalry units that are not in combat to be the targets. Each target can move d6 inches. Each target cannot move into combat during any part of that move. An extra d6 inches if you've got Skinks out there. Normally you're going to have a couple units because they're really cheap and really easy to use for battle tactics and objectives and things like that. And then the Sunclaw Star Host, once per turn per army. At the end of any turn, pick up to 3 friendly Saurus or Kroxigor units that are in combat to be the targets. For each target, make a pylon move. Then pick an enemy unit in combat with the target and roll a d3 on a 2+. Inflict an amount of mortal damage on that enemy equal to the roll. This is one that I like a lot because it's just extra chip damage. And like your Kroxigor and your Saurus are probably going to be fighting a lot. So at the end of each turn, you can pick up to 3 of these guys to pile in and do some mortals, which is dang good. And then the Thunderquake Star Host, add 2 to the health characteristic of friendly Seraphon monster units. If you wanted to go really monster heavy and monster mash, this is a good way to go, especially with the new rules on the Carnosaur for the Scourge of Ghyran stuff. He's gotten so much better, so getting him 2 more health would be pretty cool. Next up, we've got the heroic traits. Being of the stars, ignore modifiers to save rolls for this unit, positive and negative. So you ignore rend, but you also can't use an all-out defense to make yourself more tanky. Reptilian cunning. If this unit charged this turn, if a friendly unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit uses the all-out attack command in the combat phase, no command points are spent. A free all-out attack, as long as they're wholly within 12 inches, is really cool and very strong. It's not so good with the new GHB because when you use all out attack, you get -1 to your save for the rest of the turn. All out attack, I feel like, is not going to be a huge focal point of this GHB. And then Beastmaster, add 2 inches to the move characteristic of friendly Seraphon cavalry and Seraphon monster units for the rest of the phase if they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit at the start of the turn. So that one, if you combine that with like Sotek the Deliverer, all of your Seraphon units will be +2, and then your cavalry and monsters would be +4 inches to their movement. So they're just super fast and can really zoom around the board. I think I'd probably use Being of the Stars, throw that on someone, throw that on your Carnosaur, and watch them just tank through everything. And then Artifacts of Power. We've got the Coatl Familiar. Once per battle, this is a reaction. When you declare a spell ability for a friendly Seraphon wizard within this unit's combat range, add d6 to the casting roll for that spell. You roll your 2d6 and you get an additional d6 to add on to that. It's once per battle, but it's like if you really needed a spell to get off to really change the board state or change the way the game's going, you just have to have this guy within the combat range of that wizard that's casting this spell. Incandescent Retreases. Any hero phase, heal d3 this unit, so you can just keep on healing whatever hero it is. And then the Blood Rage Pendant, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of this unit's melee weapons. Add 2 instead if the number of damage points allocated to this unit is equal to or greater than half of this unit's health characteristic, rounding up. +1 attacks or +2 attacks is really good. I can see ways to make, a hero that just is super tanky. If you wanted to run the Thunderquake Star Host and you're giving +2 to health characteristic of your monsters, and then you gave one of your heroes that's on a monster, for example, the Carnosaur, ignoring modifiers to save rolls, and then you give him this healing thing or the Blood Rage Pendant, you can just make a hero that's going to hit like a truck and just stay there forever. So I really like all of their heroic traits and their artifacts of power. I feel like there's a lot of ways you can go with it. Moving on to the spell lore, the first one, we got the lore of Celestial Manipulation. We got Mystical Unforging, goes off on a 6. Pick a friendly Seraphon wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Subtract 1 from the rend characteristic of this target's weapons until the start of your next turn. This is your unlimited spell. -1 to rend. You can also, if you're doing Quetzal the Preserver, an additional -1 to rend if your unit that's getting attacked is wholly within friendly territory. Potentially -2 to rend is really strong, is really crazy. If you wanted to go really magic heavy, you can have a lot of wizards and you can just cast this onto a lot of different people. Then you've got Comet's Call. This goes off on a 7. Pick a friendly Seraphon wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Roll a dice for each model in the target unit. For each 5+, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. So this is just your classic horde killer, looking for 5-ups. And then we got the Speed of Huanchi. This goes off on a 6. Pick a friendly Seraphon wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible friendly Seraphon unit wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. To the start of your next turn, the target can use a run ability and still use shoot and or charge abilities later. So run and charge is really strong. Throw this on your Croxagore. If you got the plus movement stuff, they're just zooming up the board using this spell as well. And then the second spell lore is the lore of Primal Jungles. The first spell is Light of Chotek, goes off on a 6. Pick a friendly Seraphon wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible friendly Seraphon unit wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target, and then make a casting roll of 2d6. Roll a number of dice equal to the number of damage points the target has. For each 4+, heal the target for 1. This is just a good way to heal any of your units that have just been getting rocked, especially, like, I'm going to keep using this example because I think it's going to be very prevalent, but the Carnosaur being able to just heal up a whole bunch using this spell is super cool. You do have to kind of decide between which spell or you're going to take. And then the Earth Trembles. This goes off on an 8. Pick a friendly Seraphon wizard to cast this spell. Pick a point on the battlefield within 18 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Draw a straight line between the target point and the closest part on the caster's base. Roll a d3 for each unit, friendly and enemy, that has models passed across by this line. On a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on that unit equal to the roll. So essentially, you have up to 18 inches. Everybody on that line takes d3 mortals on a 2+, which is, you roll for each one, of course, individually, but It's just a good way to kind of chip away at some different enemy units. It does affect you too, so if your units are in the way, then they'll take mortals as well. And then Empowered Celestite. This goes off on a 7. Pick a friendly Seraphon wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible friendly Saurus unit wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Add 1 to the Ren characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. Outside of the Light of Chotek, this seems to be a little bit more on the offensive side, doing a little more damage out there. You've got some buff spells. Adding 1 to your own Rend is pretty awesome. The other one, the Celestial Manipulation, you can subtract 1 Rend from someone else. And this has like the Horde Killer spell in the Celestial Manipulation versus the draw a line and do D3 mortals there. So I don't know if I would pick one over the other. They both are very good. I think the Primal Jungles one a little more. I like to be able to heal the units, and then adding 1 to Rend and being a little more dangerous, I think, is a little better. And then moving on to the War Scrolls. The first one, we've got our guy, Lord Croak. He is just an absolute beast. Words can't describe how dangerous Lord Croak can be on the battlefield. So his 4-up armor save, 4-up ward save. He's Wizard 3, 5-inch movement, 18 health, and 5 control. 4-up armor save, 4-up ward save. It's super good. He's going to just take hits. He's not going to go down probably in one go with 18 health, but you never know. He's got the Gaze of Croak for his ranged weapons, 12-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s, Rend 2, D6 damage with shoot and combat. And then the melee weapons, you got the Azurite Force Barrier, 2d6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, Rend 1, damage 1 with crit mortals. He's got the Supreme Master of Order. Add 2 to casting rolls and add 1 to unbinding rolls and banishment rolls for this unit. In addition, this unit can use an unbind ability if an enemy wizard anywhere on the battlefield uses a spell ability instead of an enemy wizard within 30 inches of this unit. And when using the banished manifestation ability, this unit can pick a manifestation anywhere on the battlefield instead of within 30 inches of it. So he's your magic boy. +2 to cast, +1 to unbind, and his unbind and banishment abilities are the entire board instead of just 30 inches. So nowhere is safe from this guy. And then Dead for Innumerable Ages. At the end of any turn, this unit must use this ability each turn while it is damaged. Roll 3d6 and add the number of damage points this unit has to the roll. On a 20+, this unit is destroyed. Otherwise, heal 18. So if you don't kill him in one go, there's a chance at the end of the turn he just kills himself. But if he doesn't, then he just heals back to full. In a way, you kill him in one go, no matter what you do. Because either you do some damage to him and he rolls a 20+, or you just kill him straight up. Got the Arcane Vassal. Once per turn in any hero phase, pick a friendly skink wizard wholly within 18 inches of this unit to be the target. Measure the range and visibility of the next spell ability used by this unit this phase from the target instead of from this unit. The target is treated as the caster for the purpose of other abilities or spell effects such as Unbind or the Earth Trembles. If you're doing the Earth Trembles, that's the 18-inch line to someone and everybody takes mortals that's on that line. The other one is just unbinding it. You can just shoot this through one of your skink wizards to use them as kind of your anchor point to shoot off the spell, but then the unbinding also comes from that unit that you shot the spell through, which makes perfect sense. And then his War Scroll spell is Celestial Deliverance. This goes off on a 7. This unit can cast this spell more than once per phase, pick up to 3 different visible enemy units within 18 inches of this unit to be the targets, then make a casting roll of 2d6, inflict d3 mortal damage on each target. He, as a wizard 3, you can just cast this 3 times and just D3 mortals, D3 mortals, D3 mortals. Just keep on pumping this out. Like it is a very good spell to just chip away, especially since it's not like a D3 2+ thing. You can just blast this as much as you want, as many power levels as you have, which is pretty awesome. Lord Croak, he gets a 2 thumbs up. Next up, we've got the Slan Star Master, 5-up armor save, 6-up ward save, Wizard 3, 5-inch movement, 9 health, 2 control. You've got Azure Lighting for the melee weapons, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, Rend 1, damage 1 with crit mortals. And then he also has Masters of Order. Add 1 to the casting rolls for this unit. In addition, this unit can use an Unbind ability if an enemy wizard anywhere on the battlefield uses a spell ability instead of an enemy wizard within 30 inches of this unit. And when using the Banished Manifestations ability, this unit can pick a manifestation anywhere on the battlefield instead of within 30 inches of it. So his is the same kind of thing, except instead of being +2 to casting and +1 to unbind, he's just +1 to cast. And then it's also, he can just unbind and banish anywhere on the board instead of within 30 inches of him. And then his War Scroll spell, you've got the Celestial Equilibrium. This goes off on a 6. Make a casting roll of 2d6 for the rest of the turn. Add 1 to the casting rolls made for other friendly Seraphon wizards while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So before you cast anything with any of your other wizards, use this guy, use this spell, try and get +1 to cast for everybody. And as long as your wizards are within 12 inches of him, wholly within 12 inches, then they're +1 to cast. And then he also has Arcane Vessel. Once per turn in any hero phase, pick a friendly skink wizard wholly within 18 inches of this unit to be the target. You can just use him to shoot the spell through there instead of doing it through the Star Master. So it has to be another skink wizard. So you got to kind of figure out how you're going to blast through that, but you got ways to do that. And then Celestial Reinforcements. This is once per turn per army in any hero phase. Pick a friendly Seraphon unit that started the battle with 3 or more models and has been destroyed to be the target. Roll a dice on a 4+. Set up a replacement unit with half the number of models from the target unit, rounding up, wholly within 12 inches of this unit and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So on a 4+, you can bring back a dead unit, is essentially what that is. And that's going to be very good, and I think very important in this new GHB, the 2025-26 GHB, because there's a lot of movement shenanigans and movement battle tactics and a lot of things you have to move around on the board to get onto objectives, because the objectives can change, and sometimes you have to score on this pair and sometimes you have to score on a different pair. So being able to bring in reinforcements that have died and you can kind of place them on the board accordingly is very, very strong. This one does have to be within 12 inches of him and 9 inches away from enemy units, so it limits you a little bit, but it's still always really good to bring back a dead unit. Next up, we've got the Skink Oracle on Troglodon. 4 armor save, Wizard 1, 10-inch movement, 14 health, and 5 control. Range weapons, you've got the Troglodon's Noxious Spittle, 15-inch range, d6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2, with shoot in combat and the companion keyword. And then melee weapons, you've got the Divining Rod, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage d3. The Troglodon's Talons, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2, with the companion keyword. And then the Troglodon's Jaws, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 3, with crit mortals and the companion keyword. He's battle damaged. While this unit has 10 or more damage points, the attack's characteristic of its Troglodon Jaws is 2. And then the Noxious Roar, once per turn per army in any combat phase, pick up to 3 enemy units in combat with this unit to be the targets. Roll a dice for each target. On a 3+, subtract 1 from hit rolls for the target's attacks for the rest of the turn. That's really good, because if you're getting swarmed, making everybody -1 to hit is really strong. And it's on a 3+, so it's not impossible to do. It's going to happen quite often, but that'll help you kind of survive some of these hits you're going to take with this guy if he gets into combat. And then Terror, subtract 2 from the control scores of enemy units while they are in combat with this unit. So a little control score manipulation. And then at the end of any turn, you've got Troglodon Regeneration. Heal this unit for D3. So if he's surviving and sticking in combat on a 3+, you're -1 to hit. And then he's also just going to heal at the end of any turn. And your control is -2. He can be a little bit of a problem to deal with. He doesn't have a great armor save. He's only a 4+, so no ward save. He can go down pretty easily, but that -1 to hit rampage can be really, really dangerous. Okay, next up, we've got the Saurus Oldblood on Carnosaur. 4 armor save, 10-inch movement, 14 health, 5 control. Range weapons, you got the Sunbolt Gauntlet, 12-inch range, d6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1. And then for melee weapons, you got the Sunstone Spear, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2, with charge +1 damage. And then the Carnosaurus Clawed, 4 limbs, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 3, with the companion keyword. And then the Carnosaurus Massive Jaws, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 3, with a companion keyword. He's battle damaged. While this unit has 10 or more damage points, the attack's characteristic of its Carnosaurus Massive Jaws is 2. It's got Spearhead of the Charge. If this unit charges this turn, add 1 to charge rolls for friendly Saurus units while they are wholly within 18 inches of this unit for the rest of the turn. Him just making everybody else +1 to charge while they're around him is really awesome. So charge him in first and then charge everybody else in. The problem with this is that you might charge him in and make a long bomb charge and then not make it with anything else and kind of just leave this guy out on an island. +1 to charge is good. And then Terror again, subtract 2 from control scores of enemy units while they're in combat with him, because he's just a giant scary dinosaur. And then Blood Frenzy, this is once per turn per army in any combat phase. If this unit is in combat with any damaged enemy monsters, roll a dice on a 3+. This unit has strike first for the rest of the turn. You want to send him into monsters so that he can fight first. A 4 armor save is a little scary, and he can hit pretty hard. I think the Scourge of Ghyran one is a little stronger, and we'll get to that one towards the end of the video. I love the Carnosaur. Just a dinosaur riding another giant dinosaur is so cool. It's so awesome. Next up, we've got the Saurus Scar Veteran on Agrodon. 4-up armor save, 10-inch movement, 8 health, 2 control. Melee weapons, you got the Celestite Spear or Club. 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 2, with charge +1 damage. And then the Agrodon's Rending Bites and Striking Talons. 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 2 with the companion keyword. At the end of any turn, he's got Primal Rage. This unit must use this ability each turn. If this unit used any fight abilities this turn, place a rage token next to it to a maximum of 3. If this unit did not use any fight abilities this turn, remove all rage tokens it has. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's companion weapons for each rage token it has until the end of the next turn. The longer this guy's fighting, this goes for the Agrodons as well, the longer they're fighting, the more attacks that they get, and the more attacks you get, the more damage you do. Simple math there. And then the Alpha Roar, this is once per battle in any combat phase. Pick this unit and each friendly Agrodon Lancer's unit wholly within 12 inches of it to be the targets. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the target's companion weapons for the rest of the turn. In addition, place a rage token next to each target to a maximum of 3 per unit. So if you're going to run a whole bunch of Agrodons, this guy is going to help you out by giving them +1 attacks and giving them a rage token. That's essentially +2 attacks. If they're fighting, it gets very dangerous. Next up is the Agrodon Lancers. 4-up armor save, 10-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. They have the Celestite Spear and Club as well. 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, with charge +1 damage and anti-monster +1 rend. And then the Agrodon's Rending Bites and Striking Talons. 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 2. And they have the same Primal Rage, so if they fight, they get a rage token. For each rage token they have, they get +1 attack. As long as they're fighting, they keep adding them up to a maximum of 3. If they didn't fight that turn, then it goes back down to 0. Next up, we've got the Saurus Warriors. 4-up armor save, 5-inch movement, 2 health, 1 control. They have Celestite weapons, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1. And their ability is the Ordered Cohorts. Add 1 to save rolls for this unit while each model in this unit is contesting an objective you control. You sit these guys down on an objective, they're going to be on a 3-up armor save. If you all defense them, they're down to a 2-up armor save. And they're just going to hang out and chill and be impossible to take off the board. If you have the Quetzal the Preserver asterism, then they're -1 to rend if you're on a friendly objective that's in your territory. So these guys can just be super tanky and very hard to remove from the board. Even though they don't have a ward save, they can get to a pretty ridiculous armor save. Next, we got the Saurus Guard. 3-up armor save, 5-inch movement, 2 health, 1 control. They've got the Celestite Polearms. 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, and their ability is the Selfless Protectors. While any friendly Slan units are within this unit's combat range, both this unit and those Slan units have a ward of 5+. If you have these guys and you want to put them around your Slan Wizards, they're just going to be 5-up ward on a 3-up armor save. Pretty tough to kill. And so that's all the Saurus units. We're going to move over to the Skink units now. The Skink Starseer, 4-up armor save, Wizard 2, 5-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. For melee weapons, you got the Astromancer's Staff, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage D3. The abilities, you've got Scry the Stars. Once per battle per army in your hero phase, roll a number of dice equal to the current battle round number. For each 3+, pick a friendly Seraphon unit wholly within 18 inches of this unit. That unit has a ward of 5+ until the start of your next turn. He can just be dishing out a 5-up ward, and so onto your Kroxigor or your Saurus Warriors. Anybody that doesn't have a ward save that's wholly within 18 inches of this guy has a chance to get a ward save. You just got to roll for 3-ups and hope you get it. His War Scroll spell is Celestial Doom. This goes off on a 7. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches to be the target, then make a casting roll of 2d6. Ward rolls cannot be made for the target for the rest of the turn. So he can just turn off ward saves. It's really good because if you can turn off ward saves on anything, it makes them that much easier to kill. So a 5-up ward save becomes instantly nothing, and then it's just down to armor save, and if you get enough rend into that thing, you can take things down very quickly. Moving on to the Skink Star Priest, got a 6-up armor save, Wizard 1, 8-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. For melee weapons, you've got the Serpent Staff, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage D3. And then his ability is the Serpent Staff. This is in your hero phase. Pick a visible friendly Seraphon unit wholly within 18 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 2+. The target's melee weapons have crit auto wound until the start of your next turn. So any 6s that unit rolls auto wound, so you don't have to re-roll those when you're rolling to wound. It's very strong. He's cheap too, so for a cheap wizard, he's super easy to kill on a 6-up save with no ward save, but you don't want this guy to be fighting at all. You just want him to be chilling in the back, casting spells. And then we've got the Skinks, 6-up armor save, 8-inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. For ranged weapons, you got the Javelins and Bolt Splitters. 12-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1, with the shoot and combat keyword. And then for melee weapons, you got the Celestite Daggers and Moon Clubs. 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, no rend, damage 1. They have the Swift and Nimble ability. When this unit uses a redeploy command, when determining the distance this unit can move, you can roll 2 dice instead of 1 and pick either result. So these guys can just redeploy far, and they're really cheap. Moving on, we got the Spawn of Chotek, 5-up armor save, 5-inch movement, 8 health, 1 control. For ranged weapons, they've got the Glob of Flame Acid, 16-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D3 plus 3 with a companion keyword. And then the Stream of Fire, 10-inch range, 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1 with anti-infantry plus 1 rend and the companion keywords. And then for melee weapons, they have the Fiery Maw, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 3 with the companion keywords. They have Sun Acolytes. This unit has a crew of 3 Sun Acolytes that are tokens. Add 1 to this unit's control score for each Sun Acolyte it has. If this unit has no Sun Acolytes, it has a maximum control score of 1 for the rest of the battle. Each time you make an unmodified save roll of 1 for this unit, remove 1 of its Sun Acolytes from the battlefield after the attack ability has been resolved. The damage point is still inflicted. This is the only way you can get above 1 control. This is keeping those guys alive. If they die, your control score goes down. And then Acid Fueled Flame. Each time this unit uses a shoot ability, you must pick either its Glob of Flame Acid or its Stream of Fire ranged weapon. In addition, after resolving shooting attacks made with this unit's Glob of Flame Acid, if any damage points were allocated to an enemy unit by those attacks, subtract 1 from save rolls for that enemy unit for the rest of the turn. -1 to save because the acid is burning through their armor, essentially, is really good. So you shoot at them with that, and then you just let something else come in and fight it. The problem is that it's 1 attack and it hits on a 4. But if it does get through, it's rend 2, damage D3 plus 3. Okay, next up we've got Raptidon Hunters. 5-up armor save, 12-inch movement, 3 health, 1 control. For ranged weapons, we've got the Starstone Atlatl. 12-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 2, damage 1. And then melee weapons, you've got the Weighted Moonstone Club. 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, no rend, damage 1. And then the Raptidon Serrated Fangs, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1 with the companion keyword. And then they have Deadly Cohesion in any charge phase. If this unit is not in combat, pick a friendly Raptidon Chargers unit that charged this turn and is within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. This unit can use a shoot ability as if it were your shooting phase. It must target a visible enemy unit in combat with the target. If you're going to run a couple different Raptidon units, if you got Hunters and Chargers, these guys can shoot if the Chargers charged. And then they have to shoot that unit that the Chargers charged into. I don't think these guys are that great. I think the Chargers are a little better, but we'll move on to them right now. So the Raptidon Chargers, 5-up armor save, 12-inch movement, 3 health, 1 control. They have the Tepak Lance, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1 with charge plus 1 damage. And then the Raptidon Serrated Fangs, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1 with the companion keyword. And then they have Cold-Blooded Unity. Add 1 to hit rolls for this unit's combat attacks if they target an enemy unit that was targeted by shooting attacks made by a friendly Raptidon Hunters unit this same turn. So if you run a unit of these guys, probably want to run some Hunters because the Hunters give these guys +1 to hit. And considering they're 4s to hit and 4s to wound, +1 to hit would be excellent with these guys. And then their +1 damage on the charge makes these guys a little more dangerous too. Moving on to the Hunters of Huanchi. 6-up armor save, 8-inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. For ranged weapons, they have the Dart Pipe. 10-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage 1 with crit auto wound. And then for melee weapons, they have Feeble Claws, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, no rend, damage 1. And they have the Hidden Hunters, so in the deployment phase, you can pick this unit if it has not been deployed, set it up in reserve in ambush. It has now been deployed. And then you have Chameleon Ambush. This is in your movement phase. Pick this unit if it is in ambush. Set up this unit anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So this is kind of one of those battle tactic things that they can do. Hop on objectives. They can go anywhere on the battlefield as long as it's 9 inches away from enemy units. So you can just throw these guys onto objectives that people have left, or, contest different terrain pieces as well. And then they have Star Venom, so in any shooting phase, pick an enemy unit that had any damage points allocated to it this turn by attacks made with this unit's dart pipe to be the target. Roll a dice on a 2+. Subtract 1 from wound rolls for the target's combat attacks for the rest of the turn. On 2+ is really crazy. The problem is you just have to somehow get these attacks through, because they only come in units of 5. And so you're going to have 10 attacks max, hitting at 3s, wounding on 3s, and no rend. It's going to be tough to get one of these through. But if you do, then on a 2+, that unit is -1 to wound, which is really cool. And then their counterpart, these are the Hunters of Huanchi with the Starstone Bolas, the other ones with the Dart Pipes. 6 up armor save, 8-inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. So they all come with the Starstone Bolas and a Moonstone Club, but then one of them can use the Hunter Javelin instead of the weapons everybody else has. Starstone Bolas are 10-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. And the Hunter Javelin is 10-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, 1 rend, damage 2. And then the melee weapons, Moonstone Club is 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, no rend, damage 1. And then the Hunter Javelin is 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2. So you really don't want these guys to be getting into combat, because they're just going to get obliterated by whatever they fight. They have the same Hidden Hunters and Chameleon Ambush, where you put them off the board, and then they can come in 9 inches away from any enemy units anywhere on the board. They have Starstone Bolas, so in any shooting phase, pick an enemy unit that was targeted by this unit's Starstone Bolas this turn to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+ until the start of your next turn. Subtract 1 from the number of dice rolled when making charge rolls for the target to a minimum of 1. So this one is nice because you don't have to do any damage or wound or anything. You just have to target someone with this, and then on a 3+, they're -1 dice to roll when they're charging. So these guys can be way more annoying. I think the Starstone Bolos guys are a little more annoying to deal with than the Dart Pipes guys, because these guys can literally make it so you can't reach them with a charge. Moving on to the Terra Wings, 5 up armor save, 12-inch move, 2 health, 1 control. For melee weapons, they've got Snapping Beaks, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1 with the companion keyword. They have Nerve Shredding Screeches, so in your shooting phase, pick an enemy unit within 10 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a d3. If the roll exceeds the target's control characteristic, the target cannot use commands for the rest of the turn. And then the Beast keyword, this unit has a maximum control score of 1. So you can turn off someone's commands as long as you roll higher than their control characteristic on a d3. It's a little tricky. You don't see these guys a ton, but I can see why you'd bring some, and they can just kind of be annoying and hop onto objectives. They're super quick because they're 12-inch move, but other than that, I don't know if I would really take these guys. We've got a couple different war scrolls for the Bastillodon. So you've got the Bastillodon with the Arc of Sotek, 2 up armor save, 5-inch movement, 12 health, 5 control. Ranged weapons, you got the Handler's Meteoric Javelins, 12-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1 with the shoot and combat keyword. For melee weapons, you got the Arc of Sotek, 20 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, no rend, damage 1 with crit mortal and the companion keyword. And then you've got the Bludgeoning Tail, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage d3 with the companion keyword as well. And then once per turn per army in any combat phase, you can use the Arc of Sotek to pick up to 3 different enemy units within 9 inches of this unit to be the targets. And then you roll a d3 for each target. On a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. So a 2-up armor save is really tough to get through. This thing's not so great in combat, but it's just going to be popping mortals into people who are close to it. So that's kind of a nice little ability there. And then the other war scroll is the Bastillodon with the Solar Engine. Its profile is essentially the same, except for ranged weapons. You have the Solar Engine, which is an 18-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 3 with the crit 2 hits ability. It doesn't have like the Arc of Sotek, obviously. For melee weapons, it's just the Bludgeoning Tail. And then its ability is a little different, so it has the Tail Swipe. This is once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice for each model in the target unit up to a maximum of 8. For each 5+, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. So you can just do a little bit of mortals. It's tough that it's only up to 8. So if you're getting swarmed with the Horde, you're not really going to be able to just like mow them down. This is still good. It's just a giant armored dinosaur with a laser beam attached to it. Moving on to the Pterodon Chief. We've got a 5-up armor save, 14-inch move, 5 health, 2 control. It's got the Skyblade, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2 with the crit auto wound keyword. And then you've got the Pterodon's razor sharp jaws, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2 with the companion keyword. And then you've got Chief's Deadly Cargo. This is in your movement phase. Pick an enemy unit that this unit passed across this phase to be the target. Roll a dice and add 2 to the roll if this unit is within the combat ranges of any friendly Pterodon Riders units. On a 5+, inflict D3 mortal damage on the target. If any damage points are allocated by this ability and the target does not have fly, the target cannot use run abilities until the start of your next turn. So he just goes and he drops a bomb on someone, and on a 5+, does D3 mortal damage, and then that unit can't run as long as it doesn't have the fly keyword. And then attack from on high. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for shooting attacks to target this unit. So you can't just like shoot this guy off the board super easily. Next, we've got the Pterodon Riders. 5-up armor save, 14-inch movement, 3 health, 1 control. And then you've got the ranged weapons, javelins, and bolas. 10-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, no rend, damage 1 with the crit auto wound keyword. And then for melee weapons, you got the Pterodon's razor sharp jaws, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1 with the companion keyword. They have the dispersed formation, so they have a 2-inch coherency range. They have deadly cargo. Pick an enemy unit that this unit passed across this phase to be the target. Roll a dice for each model in this unit. Add 2 to each roll if this unit is within the combat ranges of any friendly Pterodon Chief units. For each 5+, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. If any damage points are allocated by this ability and the target does not have fly, the target cannot use run abilities until the start of your next turn. So this one is a little different because this one, it's for each model they passed over. The Chief is just for each unit it passed over. And the Chief does D3 mortals. This guy does 1 mortal. And it's still on a 5+. And then they have attack from on high as well, so they're -1 to be shot at, which is very strong. So these guys are going to be just more annoying than anything else, I think, if you're bringing them, but we don't see them a ton. Next up, we've got the Ripperdactyl Chief. 5-up armor save, 14-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. He's got the Skyblade, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2 with crit auto wound. And the Ripperdactyl's tearing jaws, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1 with charge +1 damage and the companion keyword. I always think it's funny when you see that the companion has +1 damage on the charge. And then once per battle per army in the deployment phase, you can use the Blot Toad. You receive 1 Blot Toad token for each Ripperdactyl Chief or Ripperdactyl Riders in your army to a maximum of 3 tokens. Pick a number of enemy units equal to the number of Blot Toads you have to be the targets. Place a Blot Toad next to each target, and then this goes to Toad Rage. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic of this unit's Ripperdactyl's tearing jaws while it is in combat with any units that have a Blot Toad. So this is kind of funny because they just like see the Toad and they just go berserk. And so pick units that are going to be either these guys you know for sure are going to go fight, or units that you, when you do fight them, you want to have a little extra oomph to it. And then once per battle in any combat phase, you can use the Ripperdactyl Assault. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic of Moonstone War Spears used by friendly Ripperdactyl Riders units wholly within 12 inches of this unit for the rest of the turn. So he's just going to buff them up, give them 1 extra attack there, which is pretty awesome. And that's kind of what you see is each of the chiefs help out the equivalent rider unit. And the Ripperdactyl Riders, 5-up armor save, 14-inch movement, 3 health, 1 control. The Moonstone War Spears, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1, with anti-cavalry +1 rend. And then the Ripperdactyl's Tearing Jaws, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, with charge +1 damage, and the companion keyword. They have 2-inch coherency range. They have the same Blot Toad thing that the Chief does. So they get +1 to attacks with the Ripperdactyl's Jaws while it's fighting anybody that has a Blot Toad. Moving on to the Stegodon Chief, 4-up armor save, 8-inch movement, 14 health, 5 control. This unit is armed with the Meteoric War Spear, Handler's Meteoric Javelin, Stegodon's Horns and Jaws, and one of the following options, the Skystreak Bow or the Sunfire Throwers. The Skystreak Bow is 18-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2, with anti-monster +1 rend. The Sunfire Throwers, 10-inch range, 2d6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage 1, with anti-infantry +1 rend, and crit 2 hits. And then the Handler's Meteoric Javelins, 12-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1, with the shoot and combat keyword. And then for melee weapons, you got the Meteoric War Spear, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, and the Stegodon's Horns and Jaws, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2, with charge +1 damage, and the companion keyword. His battle damage, when it has 10 or more damage points, the attack's characteristic of its Stegodon's Horns and Jaws is 4. And then once per turn per army in any combat phase, you have Crushing Stomps. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. add 2 to the amount of mortal damage inflicted, if any, if this unit charged this turn. So the rampage goes off every time, D3 2 up mortals, and then if you charged, it's D3 plus 2 mortals, which is very strong. And then skink coordination. If a friendly non-monster skink unit uses the redeploy command while it's wholly within 18 inches of this unit, no command points are spent. So it's just a free redeploy for skinks that aren't monsters. And then just the normal Stegodon, 4 up armor save, 8-inch move, 14 health, 5 control. It's got all the same rules as the Stegodon Chief, minus that the Chief has the War Spear. Battle damage, while this unit has 10 or more damage points, the attack's characteristic of its Stegodon horns and jaws is 4. And then the Unstoppable Stampede. This is once per turn per army in any charge phase. If this unit charged this phase, pick an enemy infantry unit in combat with it to be the target. Inflict D3 mortal damage on the target, then this unit can move 2d6 inches. This unit can pass through models in the target unit, but must end that move in combat. So dish out a little bit of mortals, and then do a 2d6 pile in, essentially, and then when you fight, you get to pile in again. He can really just kind of go through, hop up onto the other side of a unit, and kind of bust up some stuff, which is really strong. Moving on to the Engine of the Gods. 4 up armor save, 8-inch movement, 14 health, 5 control. The Meteoric Javelins and the Stegodon's Hordes and Jaws we've already seen. Its battle damage when it has 10 or more damage points. The attack's characteristic of its Stegodon's Horns and Jaws goes down to 4. Crest of Horns. This is once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit that charged this turn and is in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+. Inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. Add 1 to save rolls for attacks made by that enemy unit that target this unit for the rest of the turn. So he's got a pretty good shot at getting +1 to its save as well. And then here's what the engine actually does. The Cosmic Engine. Pick if this unit will harness or reserve the power of its Cosmic Engine. If it will reserve the power, place a Cosmic Power token next to this unit. If it will harness the power, roll a dice and add the number of Cosmic Power tokens this unit has to the roll. Then remove all Cosmic Power tokens this unit has and pick one of the following effects, if possible. Healing Light. On a 3+, you can heal D3 all friendly Seraphon units wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Starlight Summons. On a 5+, you can pick up to 3 friendly Seraphon units wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Return 1 slain model to each unit. Or Time Slows. On a 6+, you can pick up to 3 friendly Seraphon units wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Those units have strike first for the rest of the turn. So this is just a giant buff piece. You're healing everybody, or you're returning a model, or giving them strike first. A 6+ is pretty tough. It just depends on how many Cosmic Power tokens you have. It just sits there and charges. The longer it's charging, the easier it is to get these. Moving on, we've got the Saurus Astrolith Bearer. 4 up armor save, 5-inch movement, 6 health, 5 control. You got the Celestite War Club. 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. Then you have the Celestial Conduit. This is a reaction for when you declare spell ability for a friendly Seraphon wizard wholly within 12 inches of this unit. If that spell is successfully cast for the rest of the turn, add 3 to the control scores of friendly Seraphon units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So here's some control score manipulation. If you've got this guy, he can buff their control as long as spells are cast close to him. And then Revivifying Energies. Friendly Seraphon infantry units have a ward of 6+, while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. If the unit already has a ward of 6+, it has a ward of 5+ instead. He's dishing out ward saves too, which is very, very nice. Next up, we've got the Kroxigor War Spawn. 4 up armor save, 5-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. Each model in this unit is armed with a Drake Fang War Pick. 1 out of 3 models can replace their Drake Fang War Pick with a Star Fang War Pick. So the Drake Fang War Pick, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2 with anti-monster +1 rend. And then the Star Fang is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 3 with anti-monster +1 rend. So these guys are your monster killers here. Being rend 2 onto those guys with a ton of damage is pretty scary. And then Spawn of Sotek, add 1 to the damage characteristic of this unit's melee weapons while this unit is wholly within 12 inches of any friendly skink infantry or skink cavalry units in combat. So if the skinks are fighting and these guys see that, they get +1 damage, so they're going to be damage 3 and 4, which is very scary. And then Heavy Scaled Skin, subtract 1 from the rend characteristic of ranged weapons used for shooting attacks that target this unit. They're not just going to get shot. And then we just have the normal Kroxigor, 4 up armor save, 5-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. Each model in this unit is armed with the Drakebite Maul. 1 in 3 models can replace their Drakebite Maul with a Moonstone Hammer. So the Drakebite Maul is 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2 with anti-infantry +1 rend. And then the Moonstone Hammer is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 3, with anti-infantry plus 1 rend. And then Brutal Blows, add 1 to the damage characteristic of this unit's melee weapons for attacks that target an enemy unit that has 10 or more models. So they're already anti-infantry. If you're running into clan rats or blue horrors or anything that just is going to be like a tar pit, they get plus 1 damage, making the damage 3 and 4, which is very crazy and strong. Croxagores, I feel like, are a very essential part of any Seraphon army because you just need a hammer that's going to absolutely blast through whatever's you're fighting. Moving on to the Saurus Scar Veteran on Carnosaur. 4 up armor save, 10-inch movement, 14 health, 5 control. You got the Relic Celestite weapon, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. And the Carnosaur's Clawed 4 limbs, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 3 with the companion keyword. And then the Carnosaur's Massive Jaws, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 3 with the companion keyword. His battle damage, while this unit has 10 or more damage points, the attack's characteristic of its Carnosaur's Massive Jaws is 2. And then Maim and Tear, this is once per turn per army at the end of any turn. Pick an enemy hero in combat with this unit, roll a number of dice equal to the number of damage points the target has. For each 5+, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. So this is a good way to just do more chip damage into an enemy hero that you're in combat with, especially if like you didn't kill him. You got a chance to pick off that last couple health with this ability. And then he also has Terror, so you're -2 to control scores while you're in combat with this guy. More control score manipulation because they're just a giant dinosaur. And then the Saurus Old Blood on foot, 4 up armor save, 5-inch movement, 7 health, 2 control. He's got the Relic Celestite weapon, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. And then Wrath of the Seraphon, this is once per battle in any combat phase. For the rest of the turn, add 1 to wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Saurus infantry while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Plus 1 to wound is really good considering most of your stuff is wounding on 3s already. Going down to 2s is very strong. And then Predatory Exemplar. This is a reaction for when you declare a fight ability with this unit. Pick a friendly, non-hero Saurus infantry unit that has not used a fight ability this turn and is within this unit's combat range to be the target. The target can be picked to use a fight ability immediately after the fight ability used by this unit has been resolved. If you fight with this guy and you've got another infantry unit close to you, they get to fight immediately after him, which we love to see. It's that follow me mechanic or whatever you want to call it. And then we've got the faction terrain here. It's the Realm Shaper engine. 4 up armor save, no move, 15 health, no control. It's cover and unstable. Fierce Guardians, add 1 to hit rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Saurus or Croxagore units that target an enemy unit while that enemy unit is within 9 inches of this terrain feature. So if you get close to this thing, things are going to be +1 to hit. And then Power Unleashed. If there are any friendly Seraphon wizards within 3 inches of this terrain feature, pick another terrain feature within 24 inches of this terrain feature. Then pick up to 3 enemy units within 3 inches of that terrain feature to be the targets. Roll a d3 for each target. On a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. If that terrain feature has a health characteristic, inflict d3 mortal damage on it. This thing from terrain features just is dishing out mortal damage. It's d3 2+, as always. You just are dishing out mortals and chipping away at your opponent. And then last up, we're going to look at the Scourge of Ghyran rules for the Seraphon. So the Seraphon got some new heroic traits. The first one is Keeper of the Old Ways. This is once per turn. It's a reaction when you declare a Further the Great Plan ability. You can pick 2 different asterism abilities instead of 1. They're both used in addition to the one you picked in the deployment phase. That's really awesome. That's very strong because the asterisms, as we explained in the very beginning of this video, can really buff up your army. So getting to use 2 of them is very strong. And then Child of Stars. If this unit would be destroyed before removing it from play, roll a dice. On a 3+, this unit is not destroyed and any remaining damage points inflicted on it have no effect. Then heal this unit for d3. This unit cannot use this ability again for the rest of the battle. It's very similar to the Acorn that the Sylvaneth have. On a 3+, just stands back up and you heal d3. So you have a chance to be 3 health instead of 1. And then Chosen of Quetzal. Pick a visible friendly non-monster skink unit that is in combat and is wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice. On a 3+, the target can move up to 8 inches. It can move through the combat ranges of enemy units, but cannot end that move in combat. So it's just a little movement, some maneuvering, which I think is going to be a really big part of this next GHB. How you move is really going to separate you from being a very good player and an average player or even like a bad player. So controlling your own movement phases and manipulating your enemy to move certain ways is going to be very important and very key. The Seraphon also got monstrous traits. The first one is Titan of the Land. This unit counts as a terrain piece for the purpose of picking targets for the Realm Shaper Engine's Power Unleashed ability. Do not inflict any mortal damage on this unit as part of that ability. The Realm Shaper Engine is your faction terrain. Shooting off and picking this like as its terrain piece to shoot off those mortals from is that's what this is. And then Ancient Defender, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by this unit's companion weapons. I think you throw this on the Carnosaur, it could be very devastating to be +1 to hit. And then Armor Cruncher, pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. This is any combat phase. Roll a dice. If the roll equals or exceeds the target's save characteristic, subtract 1 from save rolls for the target for the rest of the turn. That's also very good. So if you're going into something that's got a ton of armor, this thing can just kind of tear through it a little bit easier. And then something I'm super excited for is the Scourge of Ghyran, Saurus Old Blood on Carnosaur. I think this one's so much better than the normal one. I kind of talked about it a little earlier. 4 up armor save, 10-inch move, 14 health, 5 control. It's got the Sunstone Spear and Sunbolt Gauntlet. 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2, with +1 damage on the charge. And then the Carnosaur's Massive Jaws, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 4. And then the Carnosaur's Clawed Forelimbs, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 3. Both of those have the companion keyword as well. So that alone just seems like he's going to be dishing out a lot more damage, especially if you give him one of those new monstrous traits, the Ancient Defender. So he's just +1 to hit, so he's going to be hitting on 3s and wounding on 2s, is very strong. He's battle damaged while this unit has 10 or more damage points. The attack's characteristic of its Carnosaur's Massive Jaws is 2, so you only drop 1 attack there. And then Frenzied by Blood, add 1 to the damage characteristic of this unit's companion weapons while it is within 6 inches of any damaged enemy units, or while it is within 6 inches of any enemy units that had any models slain in the same turn. So +1 damage to the companion weapons, so it's damage 5 and 4. Very good. And then Alpha Predator, friendly Agrodon Lancers do not lose rage tokens at the end of the turn while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. They're extra angry all the time as long as they're close to him. And then Thunderous Roar, once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. The target cannot use commands for the rest of the turn. So he just has like the normal, what Roar used to be in 3rd edition, essentially. It's so good. He just makes your army better. I mean, the Alpha Predator thing, the Frenzy by Blood ability are so good. And then just his base profile, I think, is better than the normal one. And that is the army review for the Seraphon. It's an army that I think is super cool. It once again, it just really feeds into my 5-year-old brain. Big dinosaur, hit hard. And these big dinosaurs do hit very, very hard. Like the magic side is very cool of it. The combat side is very cool. I think there's just a lot of utility with these guys. It's pretty simple and pretty straightforward. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Like I said earlier, we're trying to just get the algorithm going in our favor. We would love to hear from you guys. If you leave a comment, let us know what you think of what we're doing. We're working on battle reports. We're working on some other pretty fun stuff that's going to be coming out here soon. We have things that are recorded that we just need to edit and get out to you. Some new stuff that's not just army reviews. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.